What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. You guys, for today's episode, I was trying to film it again. I just kept learning more about the story, getting into the details. We are going to talk about Liam Payne's death, and I promise you, you are going to hear new information in this video because I have compiled information for this video from multiple different sources. So let us get into it. Now, I am first going to walk you through the chain of events that happened before Liam Payne tragically fell from the balcony of his hotel room. And then I am going to walk us through the suspects that are being charged in this case and share with you my opinion about whether or not they are guilty. So let's go ahead and first talk about what happened. Why was Liam in Argentina? So Liam had visited Argentina for a couple of reasons that are being mentioned in the news. One, Liam, as we all know, is from the UK, so he does have to, at some points, leave the US in order to figure out some details for his visa. Number two, Liam's friend, former One Direction bandmate, Nahuel, was having a concert in Argentina. So Liam was gonna, as part of his trip, just go and visit his friend in concert. And number three, related to reason number one, the reason why he ended up staying in Argentina for a longer time was because there was some issue that had come up with the visa process. Now, we know that this is true because he went with his girlfriend originally, which is Kate Cassidy, and she left 2 days before Liam tragically fell. All right, so let's get into the dates. October 1st is when Liam arrives in Argentina. October 2nd, we have Liam going to Nahuel's concert. And that is also the same day that we meet the first suspect in this case, which is the restaurant employee. According to the restaurant employee, Liam tells him that he needs somebody to do drugs with him because he's about to go to a concert. And so, you know, he meets him in the restaurant, he hangs out with him afterwards, and they do drugs together.
En esos momentos él se me acerca, me pide mi contacto, yo le paso en Instagram. Y ahí él me envía mensajes porque, o sea, quería drogarse. Él ya estaba drogado, creo que hacía un concierto o algo así, no sé.
¿Esto cuándo fue? ¿Qué noche?
El 2 de octubre.
2 de octubre.
Sí.
Liam and this same restaurant worker have a couple of different encounters during his stay. On the 13th to the 14th, apparently the restaurant employee goes back to Liam's hotel and hangs out with him that night. Paiz claims that there was some level of intimacy between Liam and this person. Now, for me, I don't not believe it. I just think that it's it doesn't really matter whether or not they did have an intimate moment. The reason why he was invited back the 13th to the 14th was, again, Liam wanted somebody to do drugs with him. And Braian, who he claims he's also a kind of a former addict or a current addict, is someone who partakes in using drugs.
Hotel, la segunda vez. ¿Qué día es?
Domingo 13 para lunes 14. Ahí pasamos la noche, tipo, nos drogamos porque la realidad pasó algo íntimo.
¿Llegaste ahí toda la noche?
Sí, hasta.
Now, on the 14th, that is when Kate Cassidy reportedly goes back to Argentina. Now, one curious question that I was wondering was, how did this restaurant employee go to visit Liam? They have this intimate moment, and this is on the 13th and 14th, which is one day / the day of when his girlfriend goes back to the US. So I'm thinking, how did you both have, was your girlfriend not sleeping in the same room with you? Where was she during this time that you were supposedly having this encounter with this other person? Even if there was nothing intimate, you guys hung out for the entire night. Was your girlfriend just in the room sleeping? All right, so now we have arrived at the day of Liam's passing. So this is October 16th. Another suspect in this case is Roger Norris, who is a businessman and CEO of a business in Argentina, Stoneway Capital. According to Norris, he visited Liam 3 times that same day. According to some messages exchanged between them that I was just able to find circulating around the web. According to those messages, Liam had told Norris that he wanted to hook up with some prostitutes that day, and then also that Norris had returned back to the hotel to pay off the prostitute. So in my thinking, I'm thinking, okay, Norris is Liam's made that request to Norris. Norris is Argentinian, therefore he kind of probably has connections locally. He probably ordered the prostitutes, paid them off. That was kind of like, you know, he was doing that favor for Liam. Now, according to Norris's own claims about his interaction with Liam during that day, he was saying that, no, look, hey, I'm somebody who was like checking up on my friend.
I went to the hotel 3 times to check on him. During that morning, he seemed tipsy, but nothing out of the ordinary.
One, what strikes me as odd is like, why, if you were just checking up on a friend, why are you visiting them 3 times? Even my closest friends, who I love you guys, I'm either spending the whole day with you, or I am, you know, gonna go hang out with you, have like breakfast, lunch, dinner, do some activity, and then I'm gonna go home. Like, why am I coming back and forth 3 times to your place? Like, what are we doing that's requiring that level of interaction? 3 hours before Liam had fallen from the balcony, there is footage by TMZ that Liam went to the basement of the hotel that he was staying in, and he had shaken hands with one of the hotel employees, who's also a suspect in this case, and that the hotel employee gave him a bar of soap, or a little soap package, and then Liam went on his way. So we also know from Norris that he had visited him at some point within there, but we know for sure that he left 40 minutes before Liam fell from the balcony.
I left like at 4:05 or so.
Whether or not Norris was also partaking in the drugs, we don't know that, but we do know that Norris was at least present after Liam had already purchased drugs. Now, let us get into the kind of hour before Liam Payne had fallen. We remember that Norris had left 40 minutes before Liam had fallen. According to Norris's account, Liam was chatting it up with like 10 to 15 Americans. This story is corroborated by another eyewitness who was having his wedding at the hotel, saying that, you know, he saw Liam interacting with other people during that same day / the hour before. Just 30 minutes before. So let me slow this down, because Liam Payne had fallen off the balcony at 5 p.m. Okay, so at 4:30 p.m., about 30 minutes before he had fallen from the balcony, Liam was laying down in the hotel lobby on his laptop, and we can see a photo of that. And the eyewitness who was having his wedding there claims that Liam had received some kind of email on his laptop, read it, and then smashed the laptop on the ground.
Apparently something came in on his computer, and they describe it as something, and Liam just kind of flipped. He went from laying down pretty sedentary to just stood up really agitated, and that's the point where he slammed his laptop on the ground and said something along the lines of this.
After that, Liam was kind of up and down from being in his hotel room to being in the hotel lobby, and was basically causing a disturbance. He said the last time Liam had kind of like tripped over stuff and seemed to be convulsing, going like in and out of consciousness. And that's when the hotel staff had to carry Liam up to his room. Now that was around 4:54 p.m. And at 5 p.m., just 6 minutes after that event is caught on the CCTV, that's where we know that there is a phone call to 911 to local Argentinian authorities to come and check in on Liam. And they're telling the authorities that Liam is having this kind of episode, that there is a balcony here that Liam could potentially fall from, that he might be a threat to other guests. So they know that he is in this kind of state of duress.
Emergencia.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mira, te estoy llamando del Hotel Casa Sur Palermo, que queda en Costa Rica 6032.
Entre Arevalo y Kramer.
Bueno, nada, tenemos un huésped que está sobrepasado de droga y está rompiendo toda la habitación. Así que necesitamos que venga alguien.
Entiendo, me dice entonces que es agresivo. Bajo efectos de alcohol y estupefaciente, ¿no, señor?
Sí, correcto. Y necesitamos que nos envíen a alguien urgente porque, bueno, yo no sé si corre riesgo la vida del huésped. Está en una habitación que tiene balcón y, bueno, estamos un poco con temor de que haga algo que le ponga en riesgo su vida.
¿Hace cuánto que está ahí o es un hotel de vivienda?
No, es hace 2 o 3 días.
I want us to now shift over to talk about the suspects in this case. My initial feeling when I heard this story on the news, when I was seeing that there were 5 people being charged as responsible for the death of Liam Payne, my initial thought was, wait, Liam partook in doing drugs. He has put himself in this situation himself. And while it is a very tragic situation, I felt as though it didn't make sense for other people to be held liable for his death. I could understand a drug dealer being convicted of selling and possessing drugs, but for Liam's death, I felt like that was Liam and his own mistake. I want us to kind of figure out together if we still feel like that is the case. So the first suspect is hotel manager Gilda Martin. Now Gilda, I wasn't able to find too much information other than the fact that she is complicit in manslaughter due to negligence. Now, I think that she is a prime example of how we cannot necessarily assign the blame to just anybody who was potentially negligent. I don't know for sure if Gilda was present that afternoon / evening and whether she saw with her own eyes the situation, but assuming that she did not see the situation, I do not think that she is complicit in this death. The hotel concierge, I only know his last name or maybe nickname, which is Grassi. He is also similarly being convicted for manslaughter and manslaughter by way of negligence. Now, Grassi is supposedly the person that had instructed those 3 men to carry Liam back up to his room, and we have seen that footage in the CCTV. Now, I do feel as though Grassi is definitely complicit in this death, and I don't know what level of sentence he should get or even if he should be sentenced, because I do feel like on one side, it is proven that Liam was not in a good state of mind. Now, they mentioned that Liam was unable to stand while he was in the lobby. We also know when he is put back in his room that Liam tears up his room. So I don't think it was 100% the case that Liam wasn't able to stand, or maybe at that time he wasn't able to stand, but he did have some control over his body to some degree, even if he was sloppy and wasn't necessarily fully there physically. I do think at the least, Grassi is definitely guilty for just having horrible discretion. Just not thinking, hey, let's actually just stay with this person because they're convulsing, they're going in and out of consciousness. Let's just keep an eye on this person. Now, I also want to say to you, I get it as a hotel. You want to remove this kind of guest from maybe your main lobby, but leaving a person completely by themselves in that state, come on, let's use some common sense. I want to talk about kind of the most vocal person in this case, which is Braian Paiz. Now, Braian Paiz has been on several different news channels talking about what he has experienced with Liam. He's the one that spent the night with Liam. According to Braian, they took drugs together. He didn't supply him with the drugs necessarily, but they did take drugs together. What I thought was interesting about this was, on one side, I think, okay, Liam is this kind of mega celebrity. Why would he just invite this person to hang out with him? I could see that maybe they connected somewhat in the restaurant, and maybe Liam just wanted someone to accompany him while he was doing drugs, just to hang out, just to chat, just to feel like a normal person and not be isolated in your hotel room. I do feel like it is the case though, where I don't think Braian necessarily was the one that was his drug dealer, but probably had his own set of drugs, shared it with Liam. Now, you won't necessarily catch him admitting to this. He doesn't necessarily deny that he shared his drugs with Liam, but I'm just imagining in a normal social interaction, okay, hey, this is someone who I know, I'm a fan of, I have something and I'm gonna share it with this person. He's going to go interact with this person. So he's probably sharing some of what he has. Now, it's important to know about Braian that Braian had last seen him about 2 days before Liam had fallen. Because Braian is one of the more vocal suspects, I feel like kind of blame is getting pinned onto him. And I don't necessarily think that Braian was acting in any kind of nefarious way towards Liam. According to one of his testimonies that he gave to the media, he said that he did see Liam look scared while they were together and he was leaving the last time. He said that he saw Liam grab like kind of like little tissues and put it into like the card keyhole that would be used to get into like the hotel room.
Se quedó sentado en el inodoro mirando al frente, asustado. Él agarra y, ¿viste donde pones la tarjeta de para pasar o salir? Él puso un montón de papeles como para que quede bien, un montón.
Como que tenía miedo.
Tenía miedo.
I don't know what to make too much of that. I could think Liam might be someone who, when he is under the influence, he gets paranoid. Now, it was something that stood out to Braian at least. And maybe it's because although Braian is a regular user, maybe he's not a user of substances to the degree that Liam is or was partaking in. Now, I want to take us to the next hotel employee / suspect, which is Ezequiel Pereyra. Now, Ezequiel is the employee that had supposedly sold the drugs to Liam in the Little Dove soapbox. And I find it interesting that in Braian's statement to the media, he says, the media asked him, when you saw the photos of Liam's room, did it look familiar to you as though that is his room? Braian then answers and says, yeah, the room did not look obviously in that state where there was all these drugs. He said, I don't know what was going on with the soapbox, the candle, and the glass of water. And at first when he said that, I didn't think too much of it. But when I later realized that the soapbox was used as the mechanism to sell Liam or to provide Liam with the actual drug, I thought that's a really random thing to point out as like, I didn't notice any difference in the room. I don't even know what the soapbox, candle, and water are there for. When I saw the photos of the room torn up, it looked to me like there's a bunch of drugs there and there's a bunch of like shit everywhere else. There's trash all over the room. I'm not thinking, I don't know what that is, and that is.
¿Esa foto significaba para vos que yo estuve ahí, eso lo vi?
Sí, vi las drogas, además no sé, eso no, porque no estaba así, no había. La caja de jabón ya estaba desde antes, desde el día 1 que yo ingresé ahí, yo la vi a la caja esa. Yo no entendía para qué servía, ni para qué servía la vela, ni el vasito con agua.
I'm not pointing this out to say that there was a nefarious thing going on with these three things, but I feel like I can see, although I feel like Braian is also innocent in not supplying Liam directly with drugs or not causing the fall, I think Lion, I think Braian is trying to distance himself from any kind of drug-related thing to the point where he's saying, I don't even know what that is. You know, it's like no one was even looking at that. Now, I do believe that this person is probably one of the dealers that Liam was interacting with. Why would Liam go to the basement of a hotel building if it was not to get something? Why would the guy give him a soap box? Why would the soap box then have drugs? It's like, come on, common sense, people. He was giving him the drugs. Whereas I feel like Braian probably they had a friendly connection. I'm not saying they were BFFs and Liam just like befriended this random person, but I'm sure Liam probably sought companionship. And he was like, okay, cool, this is kind of a cool person. I'm just gonna hang out with them while I'm here in Argentina. I don't wanna be alone. Now, the last suspect that is being charged in this case with manslaughter due to negligence is Liam's longtime friend, Rogelio Norris. Now, Rogelio, like I told you guys, he's the CEO of Stoneway Capital, and Rogelio's company works with the Argentinian government, providing them around $500 million worth of gas-fired power plants. Like I told you guys, Rogelio visited Liam 3 times during the encounter. Now, another important thing to know is that according to a friend of Kate Cassidy, who is Liam's girlfriend, Kate believed that Rogelio was not a great influence on him, and also come to find out during their time in Argentina, Rogelio helped supply like prostitutes and was also very much a yes man to Liam. She didn't believe that he was really like a friend because Liam was trying to be sober. What I find interesting about Rogelio and their encounter is that according to that same eyewitness that was having his wedding at the hotel, that eyewitness's friend states that he had heard from Liam's room kind of like animalistic noises, shouting, and also an argument between Liam and a friend. I believe Liam was probably arguing with Rogelio Norris.
One of my friends was in the room right across the hall from him and heard very loud screaming, a lot of just almost primal noises, grunting, screaming coming from the hotel room. Heard an argument with his friend earlier in the day.
For what, I don't necessarily know. I also don't know if they kind of resolved their argument because, again, like we said, Rogelio and guest at the hotel, when he was leaving 40 minutes before Liam had fallen, Liam seemed to be in good spirits. Liam was talking to other people. Liam seemed calm up until he got that email that kind of set him off. What I also find very interesting, just a couple months before this incident, Rogelio had sent a letter to Liam's family / friends / people that he worked with that he no longer felt like he wanted to be a part of Liam's life / career, but that he strongly recommended that Liam get additional help. And shortly before Liam had fallen from the balcony, apparently he was dumped by his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist basically said, I think Liam needs another level of mental support that is above the scope of what I can offer. So I do think Liam was maybe going through that particular period. Part of my thinking is I feel like Rogelio actually could be a good friend to Liam, or at least be trying to exercise some of that intervention towards Liam. And maybe the email that was received by Liam was something that Rogelio had written, basically telling other people around him that Liam needs help. And he was like, I don't want anything to do with this. Because, like I said, months prior, Rogelio did something similar. I don't think it's something that would be out of character for Rogelio to do. And like he said, if he's checking up on his friend, he's giving him these things. I mean, maybe he is feeling like, okay, Liam, you're kind of getting out of hand. There's more people also saying a similar thing. Now, I do want to draw a distinction that although there are these accounts that Liam was convulsing, that he was kind of becoming unconscious, it does seem as though Liam had fallen from the balcony as an accident, that he was trying to basically leave the hotel room, and that he had merely fallen, and that he was also kind of, when he fell, in a state of somewhat unconsciousness. According to the autopsy reports, it shows that Liam didn't kind of make any contractions with his body to show that he was like kind of trying to protect his vitals, which is a natural human response in that kind of incident. It seemed as though he was kind of already semi-unconscious, that his body could not respond in that way. It also does not seem as though there was any damage inflicted by outside parties. The hotel staff that brought him up there, obviously they were outside of his room when the event happened. So where are we with this case and what are we feeling? I think that my takeaways are a couple of things. One, I still do feel as though Liam is somewhat responsible for himself. Number two, I feel the hotel staff was really idiotic in their response and not thinking, hey, somebody that's unconscious, that is convulsing in front of us, should probably need to be watched after, not tucked away in the room knowing that there's a balcony there. I think it was a mistake. And like I said, I don't know how punishable that mistake should be, but I really hope that this is a learning lesson for anybody that is with people that use substances. As a bystander, just practicing common sense. And I want to think about also to his friend, the friend that he met there, quote unquote friend that he met there. I feel like those people probably were, yes, people around Liam. They're not in control of him. They're not necessarily forcing him to do drugs. In fact, his friend Roger Norris could very well be somebody who was maybe pushing Liam to stop using that level of drugs, and Liam maybe did not want to do that at that moment. It is such a tragedy, and even though I feel like we've recounted the story, the chain of events of that event, it's like there are going to be questions that still need to be answered. Like, what did Liam read on his laptop that made him upset? Was it even something that would have normally triggered that had he not been in that state of mind? And with all this information, I want to hear what you guys think. You guys, you know, I do not like to be talking just by myself. So I need to hear you guys typing on your computers your thoughts on this case and if I should look into any other pieces. Thank you guys so much for joining me on today's episode. We will be talking again soon. Bye.